It is 9:30 p.m., and you are tuned to the frequency that keeps the night alive. Tonight's radio drama is the Battle of the Atlantic, a wartime story of convoys, submarines, and the fight for control of the Atlantic. So stay with Night Shift Radio. And before we begin, where in the world are you listening from tonight? Please don't forget to support the channel through the Buy Me a Coffee link below. Every coffee helps keep the broadcast alive.
That Sunday, the Japanese Serpent struck our western side.
The White House reports that there has been a Japanese attack on United States bases at Pearl Harbor.
This was it. And suddenly things the man on the street had never thought of became vitally, oh yes, urgently important.
On map of Atlantic and Eastern Seaboard States of United States. The dotted line, parallel to the coastline, 300 miles offshore, marks the limits of the area to be known for a time as U-Boat Alley.
They were there, the U-boats. They were there somewhere. A neutrality patrol from Halifax to Reykjavik knew they were there, saw 57 of them. Yes, the U-boats were there. And there was tenseness along the sea lanes. Whistling at night down a dark road past the graveyard. January 1st. Still no attacks. But they were there, the U-boats were there. The word of one man is awaited. This man has laid his plans well. 29 of his 50 years are invested in preparations for the battle that awaits just his signal word.
Illustration. Thin-lipped man, seamed face, creator and commander of Germany's U-boat fleet, Vice Admiral Karl Dönitz.
Sie haben es ja mit Geleitzügen schon früher versucht. Wird Ihnen aber
He's
nicht
sitting
helfen.
at his desk at
Wir
Kiel.
sind auf alles
As he
vorbereitet.
speaks, he looks at the wall portrait of spike-bearded old Grand Admiral Alfred von Tirpitz, godfather of unrestricted U-boat warfare in World War I. He's answering an anxious inquirer.
Wir kriegen sie auf alle
They
Fälle.
shall sink their
Mit oder
ships,
ohne
whether they
Geleit.
sail alone or in convoy.
Ich weiß, was ich zu tun habe, meine
I
Herren.
have a way, gentlemen.
Wir haben Waffen, von denen sich der Feind nichts träumen lässt.
Grand Admiral Tirpitz, the U-boat credo, die Tat ist alles. The deed is all.
Yes, the U-boats are there. There is laughter beneath the sea.
Illustration. The interior of a Nazi submarine.
So geht's besser, viel besser.
Hätten wir schon früher an der englischen Küste operiert, so wären wir nicht mehr hier.
This is the crew of a U-boat. They're gay, and not without reason. For it's been very hot for them of late in their operations near the western approaches to the British Isles. Now they have the entire Atlantic to prowl. They're happy. A new hunting ground and a fascinating technique to practice. Rudersystem, the technique is called. We know it as the wolf pack strategy.
The U-boats were there, but not heard from. January 1st, 5th, 8th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th.
Los! Feuer! Kinderspiel. Bald werden wir ihnen in ihren eigenen Binnengewässern das Leben sauer machen.
This is too easy. This is simplicity itself, they told themselves. Soon they would be operating in our rivers, they thought. And the 10 following days supported that belief. 7 ships sunk. 49,000 tons, and the actions of the U-boat crews demonstrated they had learned von Tirpitz's credo. Die Tat ist alles.
Illustration. Crew of a merchant ship torpedoed off the east coast in a lifeboat.
Keep your shirts on. Let's surface to see if we got water and provisions.
Nuts. They don't need to man their guns to find that out. And maybe they're going to take some of us aboard for questioning. Look out! Down! Down in the bottom of the boat! The louse is machine gunning us! We are going to run! How do we come back?
Die Tat ist alles.
The deed is all. The rules have been made for the campaign. Rules with words written by a bloody finger across the face of them. Be ruthless. There'd been dashing, cavalierly figures among Germany's submarine commanders in the last war. Ruthless in their destruction of merchant tonnage, but solicitous over the welfare of the survivors. Not Dernitz's men. The United States Merchant Marine was to learn that. There was much to be learned.
If you hope to get your ship there, Captain, you'll have to change quite a few of the old habits. There are hundreds of Nazi submarines in the Atlantic. You'll have to stay in as close to shore as you can.
You know, Navy men know how to handle fighting ships, but I've been master of a ship since I was that high. I want to be out where I can move around.
You won't find much space to move around in Davy Jones's locker.
There was a lesson to learn, and many merchantmen went to Davy Jones' locker to learn it. Closer and closer the shipping moved in to hug the shoreline, and bolder the U-boats became. Soon the front yard of the United States was in truth U-boat alley. Each TNT-laden shark that churned through the coastal waters struck a blow that was felt throughout the frontier.
Los. Fire! SOS. SOS. City of Memphis. Torpedoed 68 degrees, 11 minutes west. 42 degrees, 20 minutes north. Sinking fast. Abandoned ship ordered. SOS.
Naval District to Eastern Sea Frontier. Go ahead. SOS picked up. City of Memphis. Torpedoed 68 degrees, 11 minutes west. 42
Message
degrees,
received.
20 minutes north.
City of Memphis, 68 degrees, 11 minutes east, 42 degrees, 20 minutes north. Ensign, take this information to the potting room. Another sinking.
In just a matter of minutes from the time the radio transmitter of the stricken ship spoke its last words, a young ensign strode into the huge room on whose walls spread a map of the Atlantic. And with a long pole pulled from the face of the map, a numbered green disc of celluloid that had represented the city of Memphis, and a black sliver of celluloid that represented the submarine moved to supplant it. Yes, here was the information on which to act. But where were the ships with which to strike back? It is past midnight. But lights of the Eastern Frontier Command burned late that night early in 1942.
Yes?
Another sinking, sir. Off Boston.
Thank you. Gentlemen, while we've been talking, another ship has gone down. The U-boat is able to lie outside our zones of plane patrol until dark, then steal in to strike. There's a remedy, gentlemen. We must find it.
Why wasn't that ship using the Cape Cod Canal?
That isn't the answer. Only the smaller boats can use the canal.
Well, then, the solution is for shipping to move by daylight only. Now, from Boston to Long Island Sound can be made by daylight. From New York, the Delaware Capes is another daylight run. From the Capes to Chesapeake Bay is still another.
We'll add 1/3 to shipping time. But I see no other solution.
Still, that doesn't solve the problem of the traffic below Norfolk. Norfolk to Charleston. What there?
And your suggestion seems the best, Captain. Minefields will have to be sown, and our shipping will have to take haven in them during the hours of darkness.
There was laughter beneath the sea. The vital coastwise shipping had been slowed perceptibly, and the nation felt it. Coffee on the ration list, sugar on the ration list. That put their frothy head on the beer of Nazi laughter. The basis of the laugh was satisfaction. Crucially needed war materials were not reaching their destinations on time.
Illustration. An officer of the Navy addresses an officer of the Army.
We believe it's within your power to solve one of our most pressing problems, sir.
Then maybe your problem's solved. What can we do to help?
The U-boats have moved in on our eastern sea frontier, and they're able to operate close to our shores because the patrol planes we have, of which I'm afraid there are too few, aren't able to patrol out far enough. The cruising range is too short.
Sounds like a job for our long-range bombers.
And that was our thought. If we patrol 500 miles out, the U-boats will be forced away from our shore.
Then I'll see to it that an Army Bomber Command is transferred to your control at the earliest possible moment.
You will mark many turns in the Battle of the Atlantic. This was one. An Army Bomber Command was transferred to the Navy, and its men were trained in the tasks of the Navy. Army flyers learned to identify ships from aloft, learned to carry out the tasks of shore patrol. An Army Bomber Command became a Navy task force. And the Navy from this public place expresses its gratitude and thanks, for the U-boats slowly were forced farther out to sea, and a round was won. And daily, hourly, the workers in the shipyards of America were doing their bit to choke the laughter that came from beneath the sea.
Illustration. A young lady stands on a platform gripping the neck of a champagne bottle. She raises it and brings it down on the sleek bow of the ship.
And crashing down the ways of Navy shipyards came another answer to the U-boat. Destroyers. Enough so that by the 14th of May, our coastwise shipping was traveling in convoys from Norfolk to the Gulf. Then, within a month, enough to convoy from New York to the Caribbean. And the effectiveness of the submarine decreased by 95%. There were sinkings, yes, a few, but at a fearful price. For the escort vessels knew their jobs. They had learned.
Illustration. Aboard the USS Fury, officer stands with an observer, watching an efficient crew man a Y gun.
Well, you think you'll get the devil?
We'll see. If we don't, it won't be because we don't know how. See, we've learned how to toss them out in an effective pattern. There goes the first one. If it isn't deep enough, the next one will be.
I wouldn't like to be caught between the two.
I doubt if the men down below care for it either.
Hey, how can you be sure when you've got your sub?
They don't chalk up a score at headquarters until we bring in the U-boat skipper's pants to prove it.
Who knows when you do get one?
Somebody knows. Darn it.
Dönitz knew. Silent transmitters told him.
U-73. Hallo, U-73. Hallo. Meldung Kommandatur 6. U-73 seit 11 Tagen verschollen. U-73 vermutlich verloren. U-73.
No, U-73 will not answer. U-73 has spread its blanket of oil on the Atlantic battlefield to be dissipated by the unconcerned waves and forgotten to all. Except the man who runs his fingers through close-cropped hair, turns and glares at the face of Grand Admiral von Tirpitz. The unoffended portrait returns to stare. I didn't have the answer in 1918, the painted eyes say. Have you?
They cannot convoy everywhere. Order them to move to the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico.
If Dönitz thought the United States Navy could not convoy within the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico, it was because he could not hear the crash of countless magnums of champagne against the prows of new escort vessels. That sound could not be heard across the Atlantic. But it could be heard where laughter was dying beneath the sea.
Illustration. The tense crew of a U-boat that had a few minutes before been attacking a seemingly helpless merchantman Now watch an indicator that marks the depth of their dive.
Irgendwas ist nicht in Ordnung.
One remarks that something has gone wrong. Another observes that is not unusual of late. This crew can be seen to tense as a depth charge thunders nearby. There is little laughter now. One tries to joke, says that maybe this is the way they're to get the leave they've been promised. He is told that he is not so funny. The craft quivers like a wounded animal as a depth charge releases its might nearby. One is sure that some of the seams have been opened by that charge. The speed of the descent that once seemed quite adequate does not seem so now. One of the crew remarks that the Americans are learning too much too fast, and his fellow crew members seem to agree.
Don't be misled. The battle was not going our way even then. Far from it. Sinkings were increasing.
Figure 2. Sinkings in ships from January 14th, 1942 to May 14th, 1942. 175 ships. Sinkings in ships from May 14th to September 14th. 197 ships.
Sinkings were increasing. But now the eastern sea frontier, under the command of Vice Admiral Adolphus Andrews, was being armed, and the Navy was striking back. The U-boats had been driven to a greater degree from U-boat alley, forced out into the sea to prey on lone ships which were too fast to travel in the convoys. But the varieties of U-boat attack are infinite, and Dönitz's Guru-System had its share of successes.
We are traveling in a convoy eastward.
Number 4-1. Number 4-1. Alter your course 2 points to starboard.
It is dark and silent this night. Only the sound of our prow slashing into the sea ahead is heard. That and the hum of the engines below. No lights showing, but there are shapes in the mixture of moonlight and haze. Other ships in the convoy, in files 200 cables apart, cutting a zigzag course through the black waters. A submarine pack has been reported in this area. Then, suddenly, the hitherto silent radiophone begins to speak.
Submarine sighted. Off to port.
All right, go after it.
The screen of ships in the escort line turns off to stalk down the marauder, and the merchantmen of the convoy move along in the silver haze. Then, an explosion. Flames leap from a stricken tanker. The darkness gone. Scene a nightmare of red light and ships thrown into silhouette. More torpedoes find their marks.
Trotz allem, wir werden sie schon kriegen.
Yes, Dönitz had a way. A submarine would allow itself to be sighted, this to draw up the escort vessels in pursuit. Then the other members of its pack worked into the center of the convoy and fired torpedoes in all directions. It worked once, then with variations again, then with still other variations again. But with decreasing success, for experience the teacher had brought defense almost even with attack. It merited a cautious word of optimism.
Can you say anything for publication on the battle against the subs, sir?
I can say that some of the recent visitors to our territorial waters will never enjoy the return portion of their voyage. Furthermore, the percentage of one-way traffic is increasing, while that of two-way traffic is satisfactorily on the decline. But there will be no information given out about the fate of the submarine excursionists who don't get home until that information is no longer of aid and comfort to the enemy. The Nazis think themselves pretty clever in the field of psychological warfare. Secrecy surrounding the fate of their submarines is a counter blow the American people can give them, which may serve to shake some of their super confidence.
How was the superconfidence of the men who not long ago laughed under the sea? The words spoken in a press conference soon crackle in the air, and submarines have ears.
Illustration. The crew of a submarine listens.
I can say that some of the recent visitors to our territorial waters.
These men affect a casual, mocking expression. Their radio has told them of the ineffectiveness of the American defenses against submarines. But their radio has lied to them before.
Was sagt denn? Was sagt denn?
Sagt, dass viele von uns jetzt nicht mehr heimkommen. Viele spurlos versenkt.
They laugh, but their laughter has a hollowness that causes them to look aside at their crewmates. Could not this be true, their eyes ask?
Ach, der Idiot, der lügt doch, was?
One is bold enough to venture a question of how much of this is true.
Alles.
None of it, another responds. It's all rubbish. And they eagerly agree among themselves. But they are
Was
interested.
sagt denn jetzt, der Idiot? Was sagt
What
denn
is
jetzt?
the idiot blowing about now?
Was sagt
Aber
denn jetzt?
er sagt nur, dass die Ungewissheit über das Schicksal so viele unserer U-Boote und
Their faces must not betray it, each resolves to himself. But there could be something to all this talk of U-boats being destroyed.
So ein Unsinn. Stell ab.
Die übertreiben drüben wahrscheinlich genauso wie die bei uns zu Hause übertreiben.
This bold fellow suggests that our radio probably exaggerates, as theirs does.
Weißt du noch, wie wir den 3000 Tonner vor den Azoren versenkt haben?
He goes on to recall that a 3,000-ton vessel they had sunk was reported on the Nazi transmitters as being a 10,000-ton ship. This is the seed of doubt that will grow.
The seed of doubt is planted, and it will grow. Yes, the number of sinkings was steadily increasing, but in the most part this was because of the daring born of desperation that drove the U-boat commanders in their efforts to stop the flow of war materials that were slowly blunting the knife of Nazi attacks against the Russians. The German losses in submarine were commensurate with ours in shipping. How many were sent to the bottom is a secret that only the end of the war will bring to light. A cautious statement from the Navy Department said that all was going reasonably well, which means that the opposite is true with the affairs of the man behind the desk beneath the portrait at Kiel. At some time between the 14th of January, 1942, and today, the tide turned in the Battle of the Atlantic. It'll be for future historians and not this report to name the moment. But it may have coincided with a statement made by Secretary of Navy Knox on the night of April 22nd of this year. He said,
Not using every submarine they have or can build in an effort to cripple our striking power before it can be aimed at their throat. We accept that challenge, and in accepting it, we are confident of victory. Therefore, this is in effect a warning to the officers and men of the Nazi submarines that each combat voyage they undertake will be more dangerous than the last. This is an honest warning to the crews of German U-boats that each time they go out, there will be a sharply increasing likelihood that they will not come back. Here is the reason why. We are now building, both in Navy and private yards, destroyer escort vessels by the dozens.
Yes, the Secretary's words were heard in the enemy U-boats. Prisoners taken from captured submarines since, tell of hearing it. And they were heard by the man who sits beneath the portrait of von Tirpitz, behind a desk, in an office in Kiel.
And they are releasing our regular destroyers for combat duty in the Pacific and elsewhere. In addition to vastly increased offensive power on the surface, our aerial protection is being stepped up to a vast extent. We are building auxiliary and converted aircraft carriers literally by the dozens. Like the destroyer escort vessels, these convoy carriers are not something projected for the future. They are already in action. New ones are being added at a rapid rate. These carrier aircraft will be supplemented by long-range patrol planes operating from land bases. Finally, we have developed and are introducing certain new anti-submarine weapons, which we prefer the Germans to learn about in action. The Battle of the Atlantic, before it is finally decided, is bound to mean more losses on both sides. But if Hitler suffers enough losses in submarines and crews, he will not be able to replace them. With all our resources, we are working toward the day when Hitler will be forced to admit that he is beaten in the Atlantic. When that day comes, the end of Nazi power will be in sight.
How has the battle gone? The Battle of the Atlantic. Anxious millions have followed its progress from bad,
January, ships sunk, 32 ships.
to a little better,
February 1943, 20 ships.
to worse.
March 1943, 25 ships.
But what of the enemy? What are his numbers? What is the state of the morale of the enemy's men beneath the sea?
Illustration, naval officers talk to a member of a captured U-boat crew.
He speaks fair English. Lived in this country a few years.
Would you rather talk in German or in English?
I can speak either language.
However the tide of battle has gone for the men beneath the sea, the arrogance remains.
Name? Rank?
Manfred Holtz, radio man.
How long have you been in the service?
7 years. The Führer's U-boat fleet is not manned by novices.
The officers nod. 7 years of experience is not rare in Dernitz's U-boat fleet. Hitler began to build his weapons for the Battle of the Atlantic in 1935, and to train his men.
How much action have you seen in the Atlantic?
All of it. I have fought in the Atlantic since the start of the war. If you give me a chart, I will show you where our thinkings have been accomplished.
Get a chart for him.
Yes, sir.
He's not trying to be helpful. Their invisibility in battle robs them of the glory they believe should be theirs. This fellow now would like to boast, and perhaps to mislead.
Here's the charter.
Now, if you intend to waste our time with some of the fairy tales they broadcast over your radio...
Oh, no. You will recognize the actions I report. That's where we got the first of your ships.
Off Cape Cod. On what date was that?
Oh, sometime late in January. It was very easy then. Simply to follow. Then at dusk.
Boom! If it was so easy, why did you keep it up?
Oh, there was no use taking chances close to your shore when there was unprotected shipping elsewhere.
Plane patrol gave you trouble?
Some.
And our coastwise convoys?
Some. As I say, the chances were, unnative.
Needless.
Yeah. Needless when there was unconvoyed shipping elsewhere.
And you haven't had such a good time lately.
Oh, there is some trouble, but we are not entirely helpless against convoys.
Oh, do you believe that? You know how many men you've lost?
No, and neither do you.
And in this he is partially correct. Unofficial estimates in April placed the Nazi losses then at 12,000 trained officers and men lost or taken prisoner. But this man doesn't know. Only Admiral Dernitz knows accurately.
Where's your control center located?
If you should find out, I would like to know.
Somewhere in France is the Allied guess. The Nazis boast frequently that Allied bombers fly over it regularly, their camouflaged U-boat control center.
How many U-boats do you think you have left?
I would be interested in knowing that, too.
No, he doesn't know. Between 400 and 500 is a frequent guess. 150 of them on the hunting ground simultaneously. But what of this fellow's morale?
Do you think you have a chance of winning the war?
There's not the slightest doubt we shall.
Thank you. Sorry. Bye.
Yes, in March, the Nazi U-boat crews still had the highest morale of the German fighting forces. They were tough, hardened, and they were winning the Battle of the Atlantic last March. This meant postponement of the dreaded Second Front in Europe, for it could not be launched until the steady flow of material of war across the Atlantic was assured. Yes, their morale was high in March, for in February, they had had good news.
This is Berlin calling, the Overseas Service of the Reichsrundfunkgesellschaft. Here's an important announcement from the Führer's headquarters. Vice Admiral Karl Dönitz has been appointed by the Führer to succeed Admiral Erich Raeder as Grand Admiral of the German Navy. Here's a recording of the historic pledge Grand Admiral Dönitz has made to our Führer.
Die gesamte deutsche Kriegsmarine wird in Zukunft in den Dienst des unbeschränkten U-Boot-Krieges gestellt werden.
The entire German Navy will henceforth be put into the service of inexorable U-boat warfare.
Morale was high in the Nazi U-boat fleet in March. The moment of the supreme test had arrived, and their victory was in sight. It was all out now on both sides.
London has announced new attacks by the Allied air forces on Nazi submarine bases at Saint-Nazaire and Lorient.
Blows aimed where they would hurt. For Dönitz's raiders must hold up at least 2 weeks for overhauling and restocking between each sally into the hunting ground. Many weeks longer for repairs to depth-bombed submarines. Blows aimed where they would hurt. In the United States, convoy escort vessels were coming down the ways in unnumbered scores. This, too, was an answer to all-out submarine warfare. The showdown in April. The battle will be won or lost here.
Los! Feuer!
Or here.
A naval officer turns the dial of a submarine locator sounding device.
You've got one, sir. I got something.
Bridge.
Getting something on the sound detector. 500 yards broad on the starboard bow.
Right. Progress is tearing the cloak of invisibility from the raiders beneath the sea. You are hearing first a tone sent out by the escort vessel, then that tone as it returns, reflected from the hull of a submarine. And the U-boat, lying beneath the surface, is like an ostrich, with its head buried in the sand.
Set! Fire!
The Battle of April, and the United Nations waited for word of its outcome. No figures, but by the first week of May, cautious words of the outcome began to be heard. From Washington.
A statement by Admiral Ernest J. King, United States Commander-in-Chief, an officer not noted for his optimism in the matter of U-boat warfare.
The submarine menace is being dealt with. We expect to bring it under control now in 4 to 6 months' time.
Then from London.
Winston Churchill, never hasty in his declarations, in substance announced,
in May, for the first time, the Allies destroyed more submarines than the Nazis can build in a month. This has been our goal in the anti-submarine campaign. In fact, we did not expect to attain this rate of destruction until 1944.
And then from, of all places, Berlin.
An official Nazi publication not given to understating successes nor to overstate failure.
However untiring U-boats fight against the American convoys in the Atlantic and the Mediterranean, it is not possible to strangle enemy supply lines.
Who won the Battle of April?
Losses in April, 14 ships.
Much lower than March.
The Battle of May?
Losses in May, 9 ships.
Lower still.
June. How went the battle in June?
A joint British-United States statement.
June losses from submarine attack were the lowest since the United States entered the war. Fewer submarines are appearing in the Atlantic. They almost never attack the main convoys. But the sinkings of Axis submarines continue, substantial and satisfactory.
Substantial and satisfactory. How with Grand Admiral Dönitz's gastric ulcer? He had boasted that he knew all the answers. Is he at a loss for an answer to the July questions?
A professionally blithe voice from Berlin answers,
Our Admiralty announces that the Reich U-boat fleet has been summoned to home bases to be equipped with a new secret weapon, promised by Grand Admiral Dönitz as the answer to increased Anglo-American shipping. What the new secret weapon is has not been hinted at. A little doubt allowed that it will be.
Secret weapon. A timely variation on an old theme. Yes, the U-boat fleet disappeared from its old hunting grounds, while the United States' not-so-secret weapons continued to take to the air, to the sea, and old techniques received new polish.
The weapons: DD, DE, SC, PBY, YP, PC, K2, the cutter. Destroyers, destroyer escorts, sub-chasers, patrol planes, converted yachts, patrol ships, blimps. K2 is a blimp. At the start of the war, there were just 4. Today, there are many more. Their specifications and performance an open secret. Their effectiveness well known to the raiders that lurk below the waves. K2, 250 feet long, can cruise up to 2,000 miles at 55 miles an hour. With a crew of 8, armament including machine guns, bombs, and depth charges. They have the ability to patrol 2,000 square miles of ocean every 12 hours, have a visibility of 5 miles in all directions, can see as deep as 70 feet below the surface. K2s hover over the clues, oil smears, air bubbles, the glow of the U-boat at night, the feather of the submarine's wake.
We will
The K-2s were there over the Atlantic as the battles of April, May, and June were fought. Now, of DD, DE, PC.
PCs are patrol ships, 170-footers of steel construction. And where are they built? On the shores of the Great Lakes, along the New England coast, and inland. These are the sub-chasers, direct in line of descent from the famous Cinderella boats of the First World War. PC has greater speed than its forebear, greater maneuverability, and its gun power is rapid fire. It's a match for any submarine in a duel. PC was there, fighting the Battle of the Atlantic in April, May, June, July. PC is there now.
All were there. All the weapons, old and new. Here is the destroyer escort, an effective weapon that did its part.
Illustration: the USS Vigilant in bright daylight is patrolling her position in the convoy screen. The crew is alert, more so than usual.
Okay, Joe, you can grab your sleep now. This your what? Uh-huh. Had any excitement?
2 depth charge attacks. You didn't sleep through them, did you?
No, I mean, you had any excitement since then?
Nah, but the skipper figures the U-boats are still around, waiting for a chance to slip inside the escort ring.
Well, if they're gonna try, I got my special brand of hell ready for them. Get your sleep, Joe.
No sleep for Joe. Not for a while. For the phone from Soundman to the bridge speaks.
Contact, Captain. Broad on the starboard bow. Range 500 yards.
How good is it?
Very good. Pretty sure it's a submarine.
Come right to 015.
Right to 015, sir. General quarters, Captain?
Not this run.
All depth charges ready, sir.
Very good.
The engine room telegraph on the ship's bridge shows her going full speed. All hands are tense as she reaches the estimated point of dropping her ash cans. It's the skipper's judgment when and where to drop them. The sound man has been feeding him information as to the bearing and distance of the hidden submarine. Suddenly from the captain,
"Right full rudder."
Right full rudder, sir.
Intently, the skipper has his eyes glued on the stopwatch, watching that second hand closely.
Stand by to drop depth charges. Drop 1. 1 drop.
The second hand moves a few points on his stopwatch.
Higher throwers.
Boat throwers fire.
Drop 2.
2 drop.
Drop 3.
3 drop.
The charges explode at their set depths, and the DE bounces on the waters upheaved from below. The men cling to railings and stanchions until the spray off the fantail has fallen, and the sea slowly recovers from the shock of explosions underwater.
What's the matter, Joe? Can't you sleep? Are you kidding? Hey, do you think we got a nibble?
Oh, no. Just waiting to see.
That slob submarine didn't surface by mistake or something, did it?
No, it was under. Picked up the contact on the sound device.
Man, oh man, would I like to see one of them babies come up with oil spouting out of it?
Submarine breaking water off port quarter! Submarine breaking water off port quarter!
Less than 600 yards away lies the long, gray hull of a Nazi U-boat. Its deck's awash. The skipper on the deck trains high-powered glasses on the quarry.
Men coming from its conning tower.
Think they're quitting, Captain? All deck guns open fire! Oh, so they want to fight, eh?
The deck guns on the DE speak deeply and solemnly and often of destruction. The range shortens, and the shells find their marks in the plates of the submarine, and the 20-millimeter slugs slice across the U-boat deck. Then the sub settles, points its bow toward the sky, and dives to the bottom.
The new destroyer escorts, along with the valiant older types of ships, have struck their blows in the showdown fight. No, these are not secret weapons. Theirs are not cosmic punches. Workmanship, design, and the indefinable, the intangible, the uppercase X in the equation of power account for their successes. The uppercase X, what is it? Call it TM. Not an official designation for this scale-tipping fighting weapon, but let's call it TM. Gunnets cannot produce the TM. Not as well, not as many. This is just one phase in the development of TM.
A large room, large and dark, and there's the tingle of alertness in the air, not seen, for it is very dark, just sensed.
Stage one.
Gradually, there is a suggestion of light filling the room. This is the interior of a room. There is a ceiling overhead, yet the haze of dusk fills the room.
Stage two.
Dusk is wiped out in just a moment, and the room is flooded with the luminescence of moonlight. And with the introduction of this light, young men can be seen staring unblinkingly into the void.
Stage three.
Moonlight gives way to the gray of dawn.
This is a phase, a feature of the development of the Navy's most vital weapon, TM, trained men. In special courses of training directed by the Commander-in-Chief of the Atlantic Fleet, they are learning, being trained, to see in near darkness, to be armed in combat with a vital power, trained eyesight. These are TM, successor to the ersatz product now rapidly vanishing in obsolescence, the totalitarian Superman. These are trained free men, Navy weapons that have proved their worth.
Navy gospel. Ships without well-trained men are only ships. Ships with well-trained men are men of war.
The eyes that have sighted the subs, the hands that have set the courses, set the fuses, fired the guns, have written the record that proves the worth of the Navy's intangible, the uppercase X in the equation of power. Trained men.
Yes, we have one of these men here in the studio tonight. He is Joseph K. Brainerd, Seaman First Class, Regular Navy. Where are you from, Joe?
Wycliffe, Ohio. That's just east of Cleveland.
Well, I guess battle stations means more to you than just the name of a radio program.
It sure does. It means life or death to us in the Navy. When general quarters is sounded and we rush to our battle stations, we know that we must get there in a few seconds, whether we're dressed or not, regardless of what we've been doing. Not only our own lives, but the life of our ship depends on every man doing his own job in time of danger.
What about the rest of the time, Joe?
There isn't any other time. Any moment may be dangerous on a ship at sea in time of war. That's why the Navy takes such great pains to train us for action. That's why we study so long and so hard. Why we go through drills. Why we get every detail of our job down pat and go over it time and time again. A ship is run by teamwork. Teamwork involving every man aboard.
At times, does the training get tiresome?
No question about it. At times we get tired of standing watch for hours without anything happening. Especially when you're bitterly cold, and you're soaking wet from spray coming over the bow, and it's dark, and there may be a German submarine 400 yards away and you can't see it. If you try to relax for 5 minutes, that can be a bad 5 minutes.
Why, Joe?
You might come to with a start and see a suspicious-looking object out there in the water. It might turn out to be an empty barrel, or the wake of a porpoise, or even a funny breaking wave or a low cloud in the horizon. But if there's the least bit of doubt in your mind, you pass the word and immediately sound general quarters. Then the guys off watch come piling up on deck, some with their pants or shoes off, but all of them with their life jackets on, ready for anything.
What happens if it's a false alarm?
Nothing. Nobody squawks about being pulled out of bed or away from chow or the card game. They know it might have been a submarine, and that they might have been in the water by then. They just say, "That's okay, boy, you keep your eye on the water. And if you see something else funny, just give us another buzz. We'll be right back up."
These false alarms and the day-by-day routine on shipboard must get you down at times.
Not exactly, but the tenseness of waiting is bad sometimes. It's a tight feeling, exactly like the feeling you get in a dressing room before a football game. But it goes away as soon as general quarters sounds, and you're ready to do your assignment. But aside from the calls to battle station, every day is pretty much the same. It's a routine of 4 hours on watch and 8 off. No matter between any day in the week. We're always surprised when we're reminded that it's Sunday, in time for church services. Maybe nothing will happen all day, but it's still important to be ready for anything.
And your listeners are mighty glad that you are ready. Thank you, Seaman Joe Brainerd.
Now on our list of forces in the battle, ESF. ESF. No, not a surface ship, not a secret device, not a secret technique. ESF is the Eastern Sea Frontier, whose defense is controlled by closely integrated frontier units directing the fine science of U-boat detection, directing the task forces that smash the marauders. Somewhere on the Atlantic coast is located the headquarters of the Eastern Sea Frontier, one of the several sea frontiers doing equally valiant work in the Battle of the Atlantic.
Hitler would sell what's left of his soul to have a man here even for a few minutes. For on the wall of the plotting room, a huge map of the Atlantic is dotted with small, numbered, colored shapes of celluloid that show at a glance the situation of every convoy, every ship, every patrol plane, every blimp that plies the waters of the Atlantic, and the location of every reported enemy U-boat. This is the nerve center. Seated at a long table facing the map, silent naval officers, each a specialist in his phase of U-boat eradication. It is only a matter of seconds that the report of a sighted sub is flashed by radio and telephoned to this center, and a matter of only a few seconds more for these silent men to dispatch planes and surface craft to the attack. This is the headquarters of the United States Navy's Eastern Sea Frontier, a vital, powerful force in the Battle of the Atlantic.
The Battle of July is ended, and the United Nations await the significant news of its outcome. The 10th of each month has been the assigned day for the joint release of United States and British communiques on the tide of battle. 2 days overdue now, the report may have come with a distinguished recent visitor to Canada, Prime Minister Winston Churchill. Our history of the Battle of the Atlantic has been brought to the present moment, with just one more development to add. It was a month ago that Grand Admiral Karl Dönitz called his pack home, to be refitted with a secret weapon. A week ago, the German radio fairly crackled with its news.
This is the Lynn calling. Our Admiralty has announced its latest masterstroke in the inexorable U-boat warfare against the Anglo-American forces. The Reich submarines have been equipped with a device that will prevent their detection, make them completely invisible.
A direct answer was forthcoming from the London radio.
This is London.
The British Admiralty has just announced an attack by a pack of 30 submarines on an Allied convoy. 2 of the U-boats are reported definitely sunk, and 1 other is quite likely sunk. None of the ships in the convoy nor of the escort vessels was damaged.
Before we sign off for the night, a few words about the story you've just heard. The Battle of the Atlantic was the longest continuous campaign of the Second World War, stretching from 1939 until Germany's defeat in 1945. It was a struggle fought far from most battlefields, yet its outcome affected nearly every front of the war. Merchant ships carried food, fuel, weapons, and soldiers across the ocean, while German U-boats attempted to cut those lifelines and isolate Britain from its allies. What makes this drama especially interesting is the way it reflects the atmosphere of its time. The language, the urgency, and the confidence expressed throughout the broadcast reveal how people understood the war while it was still being fought. Rather than looking back with the benefit of history, listeners heard these events as part of an ongoing and uncertain conflict. Many of the places, technologies, and tactics mentioned in the program played a real role in the campaign. Convoy systems, sonar detection, long-range patrol aircraft, escort vessels, and the constant contest between submarine crews and anti-submarine forces. Together, they shaped one of the decisive struggles of the 20th century. Whether you're listening for the history, the storytelling, or the unique style of classic radio drama, thank you for spending part of your evening here on Night Shift Radio. If you enjoyed tonight's broadcast, consider supporting the channel through the Buy Me a Coffee link below, and let us know where you're listening from. Until next time, keep the dial set low, the lights dim, and the night alive.